Hello, everybody, and we'd like to welcome you back to the Daily Thread. The Daily Thread has a new sibling over the last 24 hours.
How do you mean?
We have a WhatsApp account that you can subscribe to and be notified all day throughout the day of different stories that are going on. And, like I mentioned yesterday, it's not just going to be one of those statuses that are breaking the headlines of, oh, this happened. But we hope to offer more depth behind the stories with dignity, of course. That leads us into the first discussion, the first story for today, which is a terrorist attack out of
Ariel. Ariel, that's a big city in the Shomron. I think there's about 40,000 people approximately living in Ariel. It's a big Ariel University is there. I spent the night there in 2002 during the height of the Intifada in a hotel. It's a beautiful, bustling community, and it's in the heart of the Shomron, and it's probably the biggest city in the Shomron. But did you post the videos on status? Or you don't want to do that?
So it's interesting. First of all, I just want to give, I want to say on the record, our hearts go out to those who lost loved ones.
Of course.
There's obviously 3 people right now who are confirmed to have who have passed from this awful attack, and there are more who are injured. I don't believe in posting such videos. I know that I think maybe you posted on your personal status.
Yeah, I put on my personal status. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think that it has to be thought about.
And I
don't think it has to be hidden. I'm
not trying to hide something, but I just don't think it's. I just don't think it's covered amaze to see somebody being murdered. I don't think anybody should see somebody being murdered.
Well, we
have traumas of our ancestors that witnessed their family members being executed. And in Baruch Hashem, we live in a time where we don't need to see that, and we shouldn't.
Well, you really can't see all these videos, and
you can see plenty of them.
And part of the largest portion of the video is the IDF tracking down and killing the perpetrator of these murders, the terrorist.
Yeah, I think it desensitizes when we just continuously see these videos. But again, that's not the story for today. The story for today is the fact that 3 Jews are killed, and yet another terrorist attack in Eretz Yisrael. This has been going on for years. Every so often, there's a wave of terror. For no other reason other than the fact that they are Jewish. They were not picked for any specific reason other than the fact that they were Jewish. And you know what's going on in Gaza? You know what's going on in the Arab territories? I'll put up a picture right over here, a tweet from Hanania Naftali, where he's showing Palestinians in Gaza handing out candies to celebrate the terrorist attack in which 3 Jews are murdered in cold blood. They sanctify death. They are not a partner for peace. Radicalism has no future in Israel. What other people in the world will celebrate the death, the brutal murder of another human being?
Well,
what other people?
Hamas leaders always say their slogan is that we love death the way you love life. That's their message to Israel, and it's been like that, like you said, for many decades. And you can't put your finger on it and say that this is a reason. And if this has changed, then it'll go away. You can't. There is no specific way to address it. I mean, it's been tried. When Ariel Sharon was prime minister during the George W. Bush administration. He sent Israeli forces into the Arab communities to fight terror, and he came under blistering criticism from the United States because there's this ambiguousness. There's this lack of clarity about after all these years, after more than 50 years of the 6-Day War, and after more than 75 years of the founding of the State of Israel, there seems to be a preference to keep everything blurred and unclear. In a dispute, they call it the best you can get out of people about places like Ariel or Yehuda and Shomron is that it's disputed territory. In his last administration, Bibi Netanyahu came close to wanting to annex Judea and Samaria, which means make it legally part of the State of Israel. Right. But also, he was warned by the administration here in the United States not to do it because it would create an explosion. Everything would come tumbling down. So there's this diplomatic tug of war that goes on unendingly, almost forever.
But does it? I mean, of course, I don't. You're not at all saying that because it's disputed territory, it condones such an act like this.
Of course, this is listen, Nachi. There's murders in Chicago every weekend. I'm not comparing it to Israel.
It's gang violence. This is these are hate crimes.
People are losing their lives, and no one knows how to address it. You could address it, but how do you address it effectively?
How do you stop terrorist attacks? They tried. We're going to knock down the house of the people who commit the terrorist attacks. Go ahead. Because Gaza's funding millions of dollars.
What happens when they killed this terrorist that stabbed these people in the gas station in Ariel, and now they're going to find out that his parents knew about it or his brothers knew about it.
They're going to knock down his house.
No, then the family, before they knock down his house, they're not knocking it down today. What usually happens is the Arab family goes to court to say that, and then in some cases, when the court decides that you can't knock down the entire house because they're not sure that the father and the mother knew, so they knock down the room he stayed in. So they knock down like a quarter of the upstairs part, and it's absurd. It's an absurd way to approach things. If a family knows they're going to lose their home, or even their permission,
that's not going to dissuade attack. You think that's going to stop people from committing attacks? These people are crazy. These people are deranged.
If they're crazy and deranged, then all bets are off. Then you can't approach it.
So how do we protect ourselves?
You can't approach it with logic. You're dealing with deranged people. So it's a very very fine line about how to categorize what's going on. But they want to keep everything murky. The Palestinians, the Palestinian Authority. I just read the other day when Ehud Olmert offered them 97% of Judea and Samaria for a Palestinian state. They turned it down. They turned it down because he wanted the other 3% and the rest of Israel to be recognized by the Arabs as a Jewish state. So we can't do that. So
there's no hope for a two-state solution.
Of course not. But the agenda here is not just a two-state. The agenda is not a two-state solution. The agenda from the Palestinian side is the eradication and obliteration of the state of Israel.
So listen, there's a new government now in power in Israel. Naftali Bennett, who served for a year.
Yeah, exactly a year.
He was an absolute disaster when it came to responding or doing anything in regards to terrorist attacks happening.
He was
Bibi
experimenting.
Netanyahu is notable for acting for making sure to protect the Israeli citizens. This is his first opportunity back in office to do something about this.
Bennett couldn't do anything because he had 61 seats in the Knesset. 4 of those seats were an Arab party, Ra'am.
It's absolutely crazy that we have Arabs sitting in the Knesset, and they're literally.
You got to back up because Israel's a democracy, and these people are freely elected. And that's one of the, what could I call it, a conundrum? That's one of the great contradictions.
We're not allowed to go into their territory, but we're giving them the right to run for our elections. We can't go into their hometowns, but they can come and be part of our government and then vote against us using action against terrorism.
If you read the story that I sent you this morning from Aretz Sheva, you see that this kid who murdered these people was 18 years old.
Yeah, 18 years old.
And he had a permit to work in the community of Ariel in the Shomron. So the only thing is he came to work with a knife with the intent to kill people. And now he's dead. Had he been captured, he would have gone to prison and been a hero.
But you know what? Not only is he dead, one of the Israelis killed in Tuesday's deadly attack was Tamir Avichai, father of 6 children.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Father of 6 children. Went to work today, working with this monster who has a permit from the government in Israel to work there. I'm sorry, but the Israeli government has blood on their hands.
We're all angry. Everyone's angry.
Yes, but we're giving this guy a permit to work there. He's 18 years old. You telling me that he's had a blissful past? There's no signs of any extremism or radicalism in his entire life. He's working alongside Jews. He wakes up one day and he kills 3 Jews. He then steals a car and runs over another 4 until he's gunned down.
It's awful. And like you said,
what happens if we pull all the permits from the people who are working there who are Arab? What about that? What if we start playing the game of you're not allowed to come in, we're not allowed to go into your territory, you can't come into our territory and make money.
Okay, let me tell you what happens then. Okay, back up for a second.
Stay on the camera.
Stay in the camera. Okay, let me tell you what happens then. You know what happens then? The UN and the United States start screaming about collective punishment.
Let me tell you something about the
UN.
UN.
You're punishing people that are not guilty along with people that are guilty.
I could care less about what the United States and the UN says about Israel. Do you know why?
Yeah,
because this attack happened, 4 or 5 hours ago? Joe Biden hasn't said a darn word about it. He's tweeted.
And if he says anything about it,
not that it does anything, but I don't care what the UN or the United States thinks about what's going on in Israel, and neither should Bibi Netanyahu. So he shouldn't care when it comes to protecting his citizens. You have Arab kids that are working in Israeli offices and working in Israeli plantations, and they're just going unchecked. You think a Jew's gonna go to work tomorrow knowing he has this little Arab working next to him, thinking everything's fine? I'm not generalizing an entire people. I'm sure there are good Arabs out there. I don't know if I'm sure, actually. I don't know. I don't know if there are good Arabs. I don't live there. But how can someone go to work tomorrow working alongside Arabs when this kid has been working there? He has a permit. He supposedly had background checks, and he wakes up one day and he kills people.
It's very complicated.
It's more than complicated.
Okay.
If I'm a spouse, I'm not letting my spouse go to work there.
So listen, every restaurant you go to in Israel, on King George Street, on Ben Yehuda Street, in the Shuk, they all have Arabs working there. So what are you supposed to do?
I don't know.
Just not allow anybody into Israel anymore?
I mean, Israel definitely has responded in ways and post attacks where they tighten the restrictions, they tighten the checkpoints, they make life harder for them. But that doesn't accomplish anything. I don't know.
It's really the responsibility of the Palestinian Authority, which was created almost 20 years ago during the Oslo Accords, to police their own people.
But they're not doing that. We're asking the blind to lead the blind. They hate us. They hate the Jews. I'm sorry, but if this happened in any other place in the world, a terrorist attack.
One of the components of the Oslo Accords back in 93, is that 30 years ago? It's 30 years ago. One of the components of the Oslo Accords was, the problem was, how is Mohammed Abbas going to deal with terrorists in the Palestinian
Besides
Authority?
to praise them, yeah.
So he said, you know how he solved the problem? He made all the terrorists policemen. So to him, he did away with terrorism, and that was a great plan accepted by the United States. There are no more terrorists. Every terrorist, anyone with a terrorist background in the Palestinian Authority, in those communities, got a police uniform. They got a gun, which is provided by Israel, by the way.
Yeah.
In the Oslo Accords, Israel provided over 50,000 guns to the Palestinian Authority, and of course many Jews were killed by those very same guns.
It's sick. It's sick. It makes me sick. You look and you see the videos of them celebrating, of them handing out candies yet again. And the funny thing is people here in the United States thinks that this is not our issue. It's Israel's issue. Guess what? On September 11th, 2001, when they killed over 3,000 people here in our land, what do you think was going on over there? They're handing out candies too.
Of course. So what happened in the aftermath of that over there? Nothing.
We spent 10 years in a useless war.
So you have to keep your head on your shoulders, and you have to do your best to protect your people.
How do you do that? What do you suggest?
And to protect yourself. You have to protect your people and to protect yourself.
What do you suggest?
There's no 100% solution. I don't have a 100% solution to it. If you do, let me know. I don't have a 100% solution. There's no solution to any kind of crime.
This is not crime. This is not Chicago, Abba. This is not crime.
It's nationalistic. It's nationalistic crime.
No, it's not nationalistic crime. This is terror.
The guy's 18 years old. He went to a school somewhere in one of these communities where they spoke to him about the great merit that he has if he kills a Jew.
Yeah, and then he spends the next couple of years trying to get a permit to work in Israel alongside Jews, and he acts all good. And then he uses that opportunity.
All right, I'll get you even angrier. And now his family is going to get paid by the Palestinian Authority with the money provided by the United States to the Palestinians to pay this family as a reward for having their child killed after killing Israelis.
As a martyr, yeah. And how much money are we giving to the Palestinian Authority, the U.S.? How much money? How many billions of dollars are we giving them?
I don't know about billions of dollars. Donald Trump said the other night at the ZOA dinner that when he was president and he wasn't getting cooperation from the Palestinians, he asked how much money are we sending them? He was told $750 million a year. You know what he said? Stop paying them. Stop the check. That's what he said.
Yeah.
But as soon as Biden became president,
Continue paying again.
he continued and added to it.
Now what? If you're angry at this,
Yeah, what should the people do?
I don't know.
Write your congressman. If the vote's been, if your congressman has been on, if his election has been confirmed and it's still not being counted, then you can call your congressman. There was a law called the Taylor Force Law, because a few years ago, American soldier who was a veteran was in Tel Aviv, was in Tel Aviv, I believe, and he was murdered. He was shot and killed by a Palestinian, and he had a long beard, but he was not Jewish. His name was Taylor Force. But he looked Jewish, so the Palestinian, the terrorists, they murdered him. And people in America, he was a veteran, a U.S. veteran. He served in the armed forces. He served a stint in Iraq and Afghanistan. And here he was murdered by terrorists on the street of Israel. And, of course, obviously, people were very shaken and very upset. And they passed a law in the United States, which is on the books today, that any money provided by the United States to the Palestinian Authority cannot be used to pay families whose children or siblings commit a terrorist act. And guess what happened? The law's on the books. You know what they do in America? They ignore it.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's just really just.
So just look it up. Taylor Force Act. The guy's last name is Force, just like F like in Frank, O-R-C-E. Taylor Force. Okay,
it's infuriating, and the only thing we could do is daven. I encourage not sharing the pictures, not sharing the videos of the actual attack that happened. It doesn't do good for us. It doesn't do good for the people who are the families, for those to go around.
Well, you really can't see what's going on in those videos.
It's not a move. It's not a good thing to do, I think.
Okay, I'm on a WhatsApp group that shares these videos with the guy in Israel that's in the security services.
I disagree with it.
I just joined it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm getting this stuff, and I think it's important to distribute. You don't have to show it here. This is a family thing.
We can agree to disagree.
Yes, we can, as usual. You can agree to disagree.
Okay, another news story out of Haverstraw, New York. A property at 62 River Glen Street in Thiels was the topic of a November 10th, 2021 Haverstraw Town Planning Board public hearing. The owners of Congregation Kal B'nai Torah of Mount Ivy are seeking variances to expand the building for a neighborhood synagogue. Now, what's the issue? The synagogue is suing Haverstraw after the plan rejected, and they cited that religious discrimination was the reason. In this article, it says a group of Orthodox Jewish residents of Haverstraw Town have filed a federal lawsuit against the town, its planning board as a whole, and 3 planning board members individually, claiming they conspired to block a Kal B'nai Torah of Mount Ivy's plan to convert a single-family home on a residential street into a synagogue. The suit alleges that 3 members of the town of Haverstraw Planning Board, Glenn Woodmere, Joseph Michalak, and Robert...
His last name is Woodmere?
Widmer, Widmer.
Okay.
And Robert Sembrado succumbed to toxic anti-Semitic rhetoric from an angry group of their neighbors in response to plaintiffs' efforts to establish a house of worship in town of Haverstraw. Mm-hmm. The lawsuit cites anti-Semitic comments from a neighbor during a planning board hearing that drew rebuke on the local, state, and national levels. I remember this video is going around, and it's sad to see. It's sad to see that a young community that is trying to blossom and build a shul is met with such just hatred and
vitriol,
as I botched yesterday.
Yeah, listen, let me tell you something. This happens in every community, okay? Let me tell you 2 things. It happened here in the 5 towns 25 years ago.
25 years ago, okay.
A number of shuls wanted to open up in places that were previously private homes, and people were against it, okay, for whatever combination of reasons. We had a case in Rockville Center last year.
Yeah.
If you remember, where a Chabad shliach who just moved in put a menorah on his lawn, and he heard all kinds of anti-Semitic rhetoric at the town board meeting. It happens in every community, but the end of the story is that religious freedom is going to win out. Of
course.
Okay, so it could. Well, what the protesters and the people that oppose these types of projects, the only thing they could do is delay it. But ultimately, the freedom of religion, the First Amendment and the freedom of religion is going to win out, and they're going to be able to build. So they could just annoy them and delay them. But there are law firms, it's the Liberty Fund, there's a couple of others, the Beckett Fund, law firms from around the country that mostly are involved in church and Christian projects of a similar nature, building churches and so on and so forth, that also lend a hand and help to represent, free of charge.
Yeah.
They represent these people that want to build their shuls around the country.
Well, this is us supporting the Jews of Haverstraw. Continue fighting the good fight, and Ritz Hashem, you will be victorious. Joe Biden versus the teleprompter. This is a video we actually posted on the daily thread
yesterday,
on the Daily Thread WhatsApp status last night, and I'll show the video here.
That our significant climate investment will, quote, help turbocharge turbocharge the emerging global clean energy economy. I was reading their quote. Sorry.
Yeah, he was reading their quote, so that's a reason for not being able to read coherently.
I was in the White House a few years ago at a Hanukkah party when Trump was president.
Yeah,
and I was in a roped-off section for the press. I didn't have too much freedom. I was able to. I don't have a long reach, but I was able to reach the bar where they were serving wine. So kosher wine. So I did manage to reach over and get a glass of wine. But there's this humongous teleprompter in the back of the room.
Yeah.
And the president's on the other end of the room, and the lettering is so large, and it scrolls so slowly, just according to the cadence of the person speaking. It's very hard to botch that type of thing. If we had this program scripted,
I would sound like a professional speaker.
And we had the words on that wall opposite us. Each letter is a foot high. You would sound like a genius.
Yeah, but don't worry. Nancy Pelosi said this guy is doing a great job and he should run for re-election. And he has Kamala Harris, who's doing arts and crafts projects in front of the press. You see that video?
Well, listen. The good news is that sometime today, the Republicans are going to reach 218 in the House of Representatives, which means they're going to represent the majority. The last I checked before we started recording, there were still 13 races to be decided. And the Republicans are at 217. So hopefully they get at least half of those. Let's say they get 6 or 7 of those. So they're going to have a majority. And like I heard Newt Gingrich say the other day,
good old Newt.
There's no small, medium, or large when it comes to a majority.
Yeah.
You're in a
majority.
You're in a majority. You win, you win.
Another news story that's worth bringing up, and I know that you have a lot to speak about on this topic. It's a little bit different than what you want to talk about. We can transition there, though.
Yeah.
A tweet from Shukri Abdrahman, at Shoe for Congress on Twitter. Let me see if I understand this correctly. Biden sends our tax money to Ukraine.
Okay.
Ukraine invests in FTX. Right. FTX spends tens of millions of dollars helping Democrats get elected. Basically, we're not just funding Biden's war in Ukraine, we're funding Democrats' war on Americans. So FTX is a company that was involved in cryptocurrency. Right. They recently, it was founded and ran by Sam Bankman-Fried, and it recently went bankrupt. I don't want to say it was a Ponzi scheme, but it just, ultimately everyone wanted to cash out their Bitcoin at one time, and they tried to.
It wasn't Bitcoin; it was their own currency.
It was their own currency, but I think people did also exchange Bitcoin with them.
Well, Bitcoin is also pretty much in the dumps.
Well, because of what happened to them.
Well,
and everyone tried to cash out at the same time, and they couldn't because FTX didn't have the money. FTX is a big company; it's not a small company. There's an arena in Miami called the Miami Heat. They play in the FTX arena. Tom Brady had a huge endorsement deal with FTX. This guy Sam Bankman-Fried, so disaster. They're bankrupt now, but you just see that little funnel over there where we were giving money to Ukraine. Ukraine was giving to FTX, and FTX was giving tens of millions of dollars to fund Democrats.
They gave $10 million to the Biden re-election campaign.
Incredible.
In 2020. And they've given $40 million to Democratic candidates in this midterm election that we have the finishing touches being put on. That's why it's so important that there be a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives, because the House does oversight investigations, and they're going to be able to get, if this guy comes back from the Bahamas where he's hiding.
Is he hiding there? I know they love him
living
there.
He lives there. He's 29 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he lives there. He's hiding out there. He made a lot of money. He bought the Democratic Party for $40 million. So you're going to have oversight hearings, and people that were involved are going to have to testify. And there has to be, you just can't have hearings, which are nice to watch on TV or listen to on the radio or read about it in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
But you have to have some action taken. You have to have people face the music, face the law, and be punished for doing these types of things. First of all, we need something a little bit lift up people's spirits a little bit. And there's nothing as uplifting as finding out how much money people are owed. Maybe, I don't know. It's not funny, but there's a story this morning about 6 airlines that owe over $600 million in refunds. If you don't mind me taking a look at my phone here. So there's 6 airlines. Now, it's not necessarily they're not irresponsible, they're not mismanaged, they're good companies. But don't forget, we had a global pandemic that shut down countries.
Well, I think the government shut down the country. The government should pay those bills, no?
I don't know the dynamics of how that's going to work, but I do know that there are 6 airlines that owe a lot of money, and I don't know why they haven't paid it yet.
What do they owe the money to?
They owe money to their passengers. Here it is. So Frontier Airlines owes $222 million in required refunds. Okay, and they also now penalized by whatever agency is monitoring this. They're being penalized $2.2 million. Air India owes customers $121 million in required refunds. TAP Portugal, $126 million. Aero Mexico, $13 million. El Al owes passengers $61.9 million in required refunds, and also being assessed a $900,000 penalty. And Avianca Airlines owes their passengers $76 million. I don't know if they're gonna have to write checks to these people, or do they get credit for future travel, or how that works. I haven't read the whole thing, but this has been going on for a while, and USA Today reports that they've been Frontier Airlines has been withholding refunds.
Frontier is not even worth $200 million.
So I guess that could explain why they haven't paid.
You couldn't pay some people $200 million to
Frontier
fly
the airline
Frontier.
where you get a seat for $19, but of course $80 for a suitcase.
Yeah, Frontier Airlines is the airline. You get a seat for $90, but if you want to land, you need to spend another $10.
Only pay for takeoff.
Yeah.
So
swipe your credit card on the seat ahead of you if you want a smooth landing.
So I mean that's an after the fact development.
It's interesting. Like I don't know. You would never step foot on one of those airlines. One of those budget airlines. I'd rather not go somewhere than go on Frontier or like even Spirit.
No. I know people that do,
and it's not like a spoil thing. Like I'd rather not go somewhere than go on one of these airlines where it's just like.
Well, what airline do you like? I fly when I go to Florida. I fly either JetBlue.
No, even JetBlue these days is like.
It's not bad. I like JetBlue.
But American is
okay,
running JetBlue, no?
And Delta. Also, Delta is also very good, very comfortable, and pretty efficient. When I go to Israel, most of the time I end up going with El Al.
Yeah, I love El Al. I go Delta.
A few years ago, I tried something new. I went to Israel with Swiss Air.
Yeah. And
came back with Lufthansa.
Exciting.
So it was an experience. It was a stopover. We stopped over in Munich, Germany, on the way home, and at least I was able to understand the signs over the doors. Yeah. It says Eingang, that means entrance, and then when it says exit, it says Araus, which conjures up images of days going by, and a lot of people would be uncomfortable with that. But that was in Munich, and I don't know. They flew us from Tel Aviv to Munich. I think they flew us in a Frontier Airlines type of plane. It's like put together with Scotch tape and rubber bands.
Right.
But it was a very nice plane from Munich into JFK. But I'm going in a few weeks, God willing.
To Israel?
And
Oh, nice.
For Hanukkah. I'm going for Hanukkah.
So we'll do some shows.
From there.
Israel.
And we're going with El Al, God willing, and they do a great job.
We should end off this episode. I definitely want to address. There was a couple emails that we got throughout the day.
I usually start with emails.
I know. I'm going to end with emails today. Let me just say I forgot that. I've also, I'm really upset this episode. I'm upset about what happened, and
it's very disturbing.
And I'm just disturbed by it. And
it's very disturbing, and it happened, but it's very frustrating that no one can get a handle on it. No one can do anything about it. We just keep chasing our tails when it comes to dealing with terrorist threats.
Yeah. So the email that we got is as follows. It's another one from our friend Jack from Tom's River.
Okay.
So I love your shows. I wanted to bring up a question regarding my father's comments about Zionism. For the integrity of the show, can you please ask him to clarify a simple point which I think many of your listeners would like to hear? is your father condoning, endorsing the anti-Jewish Zionist movement, which is obviously based on anti-Orthodox and anti-Jewish ideals? For some context, at one point the Zionist movement considered Uganda as a homeland for the Jews. That if anything highlights how divorced the movement is from the Holy Land itself. The late Brisker Rav once said to Haredim, who suggested laying on the floor in front of Zionists who were driving their cars on Shabbos, he told them, if you don't think they are not suspected murderers, then you're a kafir for the thought itself. Strong words for sure. The point is, the Zionist movement at its founding is anti-Torah. Perhaps Larry was referring to a more general Jewish yearning and love for Israel, and that is mutually felt and agreed upon indisputably. But if he clarified, that would be helpful for us all. Thank you for all you do.
Okay, listen. Everything in life.
I think you got to clarify that. I also
absolutely everything in life has good things and bad things about it. You know?
What's that? Could you condemn the Zionist movement?
Can I condemn? I'm not going to condemn anything.
Can you condemn the Zionist movement as anti-Torah?
I'm not condemning anything. I can be critical of things.
Why can't you condemn it?
But I don't know what does it mean to condemn. I condemn terrorism.
You want me to get you the definition of condemn?
Yeah, give me a definition of condemn. Don't try to. First of all, I don't understand why you're trying to maneuver me into a corner.
Why is that a corner?
I don't mind. But
definition of condemn is to express complete disapproval of, typically in public. So the Zionist movement, which is anti-religious, it's anti-Torah. The founder of the Zionist movement, Theodor Herzl, was somebody who was not fond of from Jews. That is not. I
don't know. I'm not in Theodor Herzl's head. I don't know what his idea or impression of from Jews was.
Come on.
You don't know either. So don't make believe you know.
but like these are the facts. You want to go on Google and read about Theodor Herzl and read about how the Zionist movement was started.
Yeah. Listen.
But why you that email was just said from Jack.
Okay.
Address it.
Okay. Let me answer you this way, Jack. Listen to
not
me,
like
Jack.
A politician.
No, not like a politician. When after the Chet HaEgel, when Hashem offered Moshe Rabbeinu an opportunity he offered him, he's going to kill everybody out because they're no good, and he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to start a new nation with you, and Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, no deal, we're all in or none of us are in, or I'm out of here, erase me from your book. I don't want to be in the Torah if that's what how you're going to handle this. The nation of Israel is a complicated type of entity, okay, with extremes and a big middle and parts that can be condemned and parts that can be praised and parts that can be slightly condemned and slightly praised and very condemned and very praised. But Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's who I follow. I follow Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't know about anybody else, but I like his attitude that he sees the Jewish nation as a great, diverse panorama. Not that everybody's good, not that everybody's perfect, but they're part of the Jewish people, and we have to recognize that, and we have to work with that.
When you say you're a Zionist, I believe that you're referring to you're a religious Zionist, not a political Zionist. You're not one who's part of the Zionist movement, which in its essence and its core was an anti-religious movement.
You
got to answer you got to just
okay. You're dissecting something that cannot be dissected.
Why?
Because it can't be dissected like that.
Why not?
Sorry, it can't be. Of course, you know what? Today Israel's in a good place with 30 members of the new Knesset from religious parties, from Shas, UTJ, religious Zionists. They're in a good place for the first time in a long time. And you know what? They'll be in the Knesset. They're not going to be able to eradicate completely mass transportation, buses necessarily in every city in Israel. They're not going to be able to make it illegal that cars cannot drive on the streets on Shabbos. But you can rest assured that it'll be dramatically reduced, because the other way around, when you had a more liberal, centrist government like Bennett and the left, you had them encouraging Chillul Shabbos. So you can't just go from A to Z or from 0 to 60. Even if you're driving a racing car or a Tesla, you can't go from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. It's a process.
I don't know what that has to do with you.
And Moshe Rabbeinu, that has nothing to do with me. So
you came
why
out
don't you
and
leave me
supported-
alone?
You came out and
It
supported.
has nothing to do with me. I subscribe to the attitude and the position of Moshe Rabbeinu.
And that's it.
And Moshe Rabbeinu,
Full stop.
Moshe Rabbeinu felt that he was the leader of every Jew, the good ones and the ones that you could consider not so good.
I can't wait to see the emails we're going to get from this one. But guess what? You don't only have to email us.
Yeah, don't condemn me. If you want to condemn Moshe Rabbeinu. Go ahead.
That is gaslighting at its finest right there.
No, not at all. That is the Torah-based fact of the matter. Everything else is based on extremism and ignorance of the real purpose of the existence of Klal Yisrael. So let's get real. Stop with you can't come up with definitive terms that are the last word necessarily in 2 or 3 sentences. Life is too complex to be able to simplify.
There's more to discuss here, but we'll leave it here for today. That is our
Mike? No, it just fell now.
That is our thread for today. You can go ahead and WhatsApp us now if you have any questions, topics, concerns.
How do you get on the WhatsApp? What do you do?
Go ahead and message 516-341-9836 on WhatsApp. That's 516-341-9836. You can hit the link in the description in the show notes of this episode and sign up on WhatsApp. We have content flowing all day, clips from this episode, and a lot more. Have a great day.
Be well.